I'd love to get your response to Governor Newsom saying, essentially, that your actions here are provocative, and the quote that he used was sowing chaos.
Look, Governor Newsom's an embarrassment for the state. Look, he's the one that's feeding this mantra. He supports sanctuary cities. He supports sanctuary laws. If he cared about public safety in the state of California, he would not have a sanctuary for criminals, where criminals get released to the streets of this state every day because of his policy.
Get your hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me.
Is everyone that has been arrested by ICE agents have a criminal record like those you've described?
Absolutely not. And I said from day one, January 20th, we will prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. However, we will enforce law. I may prioritize my family life over my work. Doesn't mean I ignore my work. We're going to force the immigration law. We've been honest about that from day one, especially in sanctuary cities. Well, we can't get the bad guy in the safety and security of a jail. They release him to the street. Well, we got to go to the street and find him.
Are Democrats out of touch on this issue?
Well, I think if you did the polling in Los Angeles, I'm not sure it would be that way, considering we are a city of immigrants. And then people might approve that policy. But do people really approve the federal government coming in and seizing power from a state and from a city? So I drill down a little further on that poll, because I do not believe that Americans support the federal intervention in a city takeover or a state takeover.
We have breaking news now from the Pentagon. CNN can now report that roughly 500 Marines are being mobilized in response to the protests in Los Angeles.
And this is a significant escalation from President Trump, who had activated National Guard troops over the weekend without Governor Gavin Newsom's consent. In this new move, active duty military members are being deployed as a show of force against U.S. citizens.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So once again, we got to talk about CNN delivering some bad news to Democrats. And I don't know why CNN is so shocked by the fact that the American people agree with President Trump when it comes to immigration. That is one of the main reasons why President Trump won, right? I think that everybody who voted for President Trump expected the mass deportations, okay? They voted for the mass deportations. This is why it should not be any surprise that that's what we're getting, okay? I think that what CNN and Democrats are surprised by is the fact that President Trump is actually fulfilling his promise, because unfortunately nowadays when it comes to politicians, nobody really expects them to do what they campaigned on, right? You just expect politicians to say a bunch of stuff and to not actually try to fulfill their promises, right? It's really sad, to be honest with you. And again, this is why I'm not shocked that President Trump and his net approval is so good on the issue of immigration, as Democrats just don't get it, right? They don't get it. And I'm going to prove to you guys in this video that they don't get it, because they're essentially trying to double and triple down on supporting violence and chaos in the name of protecting illegal immigrants, which is not going to be a popular position for them to take going into the midterms. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
You know, if we just take a look at the baseline numbers here, this is Trump's net approval rating on immigration. It's gone up like a rocket. Compare now versus 8 years ago during Trump's first term. Look at this. In his first term, Trump was way underwater at minus 21 points. But look at this. He's up over 20 points. Now, in the aggregate, he is in positive territory at plus 1 point on his net approval rating. Some other polls even have it a little bit higher than that. There is no issue on which Trump is doing so much better than he was in his first term, more than the issue of immigration. No wonder the Times has written up the way that he is. Trump is begging for a fight on this because he knows what he's doing so far is working with the American electorate.
Where does immigration rank on issues for him? How is he doing compared to others?
Yeah, so I think what's so important is it is his top issue so far. And the reason it is his top issue is because take a look at the individual nuggets in here. Why are people approving of Trump on immigration, approve of these different immigration actions, while Trump's administration's program to deport those here illegally. Look at this, 54% approval. How about agents searching your hometown for those that they think are here illegally? Again, positive territory here, above 50% for Donald Trump. So it's not just on the broad issue of immigration where Trump is doing well. It's on the specifics. When you dive into the issues, Trump is above 50% and his actions are above 50%, at least with those most directly connected to what's going on right now out in Los Angeles.
So Donald Trump, the president, picking a fight on this, and to an extent, you see Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, a Democrat, and the California Governor Gavin Newsom pushing back. So what do voters see in terms of their perceptions of Republicans, the president, or Democrats, say Gavin Newsom, on this issue?
Yeah, the American electorate believe that the Democrats don't have a clue on the issue of immigration. I mean, you could just take it here. Closer to trust more in immigration, Democrats versus Republicans. Got 3 different polls for you across the board. They all tell the same story. Republicans lead on the issue of immigration. You see it here, CBS +6. You see it here, CNN +6. You see it here, Ipsos, even bigger, +19. No matter what poll you look at, no matter which way you cut it, the American public is with the Republicans. The American public is with Donald Trump, and to a much greater extent than they were in term number 1. And it's not just on the broad issue of immigration, it's on the specifics as well, in which the American public is with Donald Trump and the Republicans. And that is why Donald Trump is eager to take on this fight and eager for those scenes out of Los Angeles.
I was just going to use that word eager. This explains some of that eagerness to push forward ever more on this as it escalates. Harriet, and thank you.
Yeah, I just can't help but smile, man. I can't just help but smile. We've come a long way, guys. We've come a long way when it comes to shifting the culture of this country back towards common sense, insanity, okay? Because, again, you know, the numbers before in the past for President Trump weren't that great when it comes to this issue because our country was more liberal, right? But, again, we really have essentially forced, okay, this country to become more conservative on certain issues, again, like illegal immigration, like certain social issues. And I think it really is an example of how we have just completely won on this narrative when it comes to, again, topics, issues like illegal immigration and some of these far left social agendas. A part of it has to do with the fact that these people are absolutely insane. Democrats, the reason why people don't trust Democrats when it comes to illegal immigration is because they're extremists, right? And what Democrats don't understand is that when you take these far left positions on these issues, like, for example, immigration, what happens is that the American people might not necessarily agree with everything that President Trump is doing, but they say, you know what, we don't trust the Democrats because they're too far left. Same thing with the economy. You see the exact same thing, right? The numbers might not be where we need them to be, okay, when it comes to the economy. But when you ask voters who do you trust more in the economy, they're going to say the Republicans. They're still going to win on that issue, right? It's kind of like that across the board, okay? So with that being said, you have some people that are shocked by the fact that the American people agree with President Trump when it comes to this issue of illegal immigration and mass deportations. Like, for example, the cackling hands on The View, who talked about the LA riots that are happening right now. And they, again, could not believe that the American people are siding with Trump on this issue. Take a look.
Support right now, though, is that 66% of the American public actually thinks it is crime enough to be undocumented and therefore deported.
That it's criminal to be undocumented?
Yes, it is not. You know how the disagreement was in the beginning? We were told it was going to be violent criminals, and I think everyone at this table would agree. Yeah. Haul out the violent criminals, fine. But a very important distinction was 60% of the American public, 2/3 of independents, 90% of Republicans, and just a little under half of Democrats think the crime is in being undocumented.
Even if it's a civil offense.
Yes.
Yeah,
so what I'm
true.
saying is a massive amount of this country actually agrees with not how he's doing it, but with what he's doing.
So there's
I think the strategy here is he's leaning into a scene right now, creating a bigger thing, because it is the one thing that he remains supportive.
Let's fix that right now because it is not illegal to be undocumented. It is not a crime to be undocumented.
But what they're saying is the problem is that they
no,
are
but I'm just saying we need to put that information out there.
I don't
it is
think,
a civil infraction.
Yeah, and I don't think
criminal.
it's actually broadly a misunderstanding. I think that 60% of Americans believe it's a civil offense and that if you come here and you're undocumented, that you should be deported.
But he's actually lost some points on the way he's handling immigration, not the border.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of I think a lot of Americans voted for him on immigration, thinking he was going to deport gang members and criminals, and he is deporting our friends, our neighbors, mothers, fathers, people working hard to make America actually function. And this is not what I think a lot of people voted for.
Yeah, I think it's time for the cackling hands on the View to be deported, especially Anna Navarro, right? I think it's time for her to be deported. Now, what you have here are Democrats that are deciding that despite their unpopularity when it comes to this issue, the fact that the American people do not trust them on this issue, that they're going to double and triple down on the extremism. Like, for example, they are essentially calling for more nationwide protests, right? They're calling for more riots, more chaos, more violence, more domestic terrorism in the face of what is happening right now with the LA riots.
ICE get the fuck out of LA so that order can be restored.
We are here to say free the immigrants that have been arrested.
The immigrants that have been arrested.
We are here to say end the ICE raids.
End the ICE raids.
I mean, my first message is to keep it peaceful. I mean, obviously, this is a moment where we have to be on the streets all over the country to protest what's happening to our immigrant community, but more broadly to protest what's happening to our democracy. This is the most corrupt administration in the history of the country, and we are going to rise to this moment by being out there on the streets. But ultimately, I think the country sees what Donald Trump is trying to do here. He's looking for a fight. There's nothing in what he is doing that is about peace or about restoring order. He's taking a protest that is relatively isolated. People in Los Angeles over the weekend would tell you that 99% of them went about their day, and it was pretty normal because this is not an invasion that has taken over the entire city. And he's trying to turn a protest that is pretty small into something that involves an even bigger confrontation so that he might actually be able to invoke the Insurrection Act. That would be a defining story of the week if he were to do it. And I just don't think, I think we have to make sure that we understand to not take him at his word. He's looking for a fight. He's not trying to calm tensions.
Yeah, so once again, we have more projection from the Democrats, okay? They claim that they want peaceful protests, but they know damn well that these protests are not peaceful, okay? They're riots. This is domestic terrorism. They've been supporting domestic terrorism for the past 10 years straight. So anytime these people come out here and say they need to get out in the streets, there needs to be more protests, I am going to interpret that as a dog whistle, right? Because, they are dog whistling. They're signaling to the rabid lunatics in their base, hey, go out there and do what you got to do in order to protest President Trump. Now, Democrats also are essentially afraid of President Trump invoking the Insurrection Act, which President Trump should go ahead and do.
Do you think that President Trump should invoke the Insurrection Act?
Well, that is effectively a function of available resources. So when they fully ramp up what they think is the optimum number of National Guardsmen, and if they still aren't quelling the violence, then yes, is the short answer, just as it was done in LA back in 1992. And so that's what that tool is for. And the president has made it clear that unlike his first term, he's willing to use it. I think we all take him seriously on that. He's already moved National Guardsmen in a way he did not during the riots in 2020. I can tell you, if you think of Portland, Oregon, where we had 340 officer injuries in the summer of 2020, 340 officers injured. And the governor Brown there would not bring in the National Guard, and President Trump didn't override it, as he has the authority to do.
I hear you, Ken, but you raised a very serious thing, so I just want to ask you. You said the Insurrection Act, it's really a matter of available resources. I don't know that that's how a lot of people would read it. Are you saying that it's really just a matter of if they don't have enough guard, then they can go ahead and deploy active duty military like these Marines have been readied, and that's okay because of the Insurrection Act?
That's exactly what the Insurrection Act says.
Because that's what it is. It is an insurrection, okay? We have foreigners, illegal immigrants waving foreign flags on U.S. soil while assaulting federal law enforcement. If that's not an insurrection, I don't know what to tell you, right? I mean, that is an insurrection, okay? We have been invaded by foreigners, okay? Hostile foreigners. And yes, we got to do what we got to do, right? If that includes using the military, if that includes using the Marines, we got to do what we got to do. I am all for it, including possibly having Democrats arrested, like, for example, Gavin Newsom, who, again, in my opinion, him along with Karen Bass are responsible for this happening because, again, they're trying to paint the narrative that, no, this is Trump's fault. This is ICE's fault. This is the National Guard's fault. This is the military's fault. When it's their fault, right? It is the fault of the Democrats who refuse to mobilize their own local law enforcement to stop and put down these riots. And that is why I believe this morning President Trump suggested that, hey, if Tom Homan has to arrest Gavin Newsom, if he has to start arresting some of these Democrats, then, hey, it is what it is. We got to do what we got to do, okay? Because ultimately, these Democrats are inciting an insurrection against this country. That's what they're doing.
What does your intel tell you about these people causing all the problems in LA? Are they people ICE is trying to deport, or are they professional agitators?
The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
Will you invoke the Insurrection Act?
It's like you queued him up, Priscilla. That word he used, they're insurrectionists. That I can't imagine that was an accident, because it seems as though that is the place that the White House is trying to get. And for the president, it's icing on the cake that he can do it in the state of California, because on a whole host of issues, he has had California, Gavin Newsom in particular, in his sights. The question he was asked was about Newsom daring Tom Homan to come and arrest Newsom. And the president responded, I would do it. And then he said, Gavin wants the publicity.
This is a very serious word that's being thrown around now, insurrection. That's a rebellion of the states or people in the states against the federal government. That is not something to be trifled with. If, for example, to your point, the president were to invoke the Insurrection Act, I think we would have yet another legal morass. It would be another instance of the way that the White House is trying to declare emergencies or insurrections in order to unlock vast powers which most presidents don't have access to. More broadly, the immigration issue, that is the track that we're going down with this administration.
It has been the track. Sorry.
Yeah, Democrats are about to F around and find out, because not only is President Trump thinking about invoking the Insurrection Act, but he has now deployed 500 Marines to Los Angeles, right? He's deployed the Marines to Los Angeles. It is getting real, okay? President Trump is not effing around with these Democrats and these illegals.
We have breaking news now from the Pentagon. CNN can now report that roughly 500 Marines are being mobilized in response to the protests in Los Angeles.
And this is a significant escalation from President Trump, who had activated National Guard troops over the weekend without Governor Gavin Newsom's consent. In this new move, active duty military members are being deployed as a show of force against U.S. citizens. CNN's Natasha Bertrand is live for us at the Pentagon. Natasha, what are you learning?
Well, Brianna, this is something that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth had previewed over the weekend. He said that if necessary, he would deploy the Marines to Los Angeles to help federal agents with handling the protests there. And it appears now that these Marines, according to our sources, they have been mobilized. These 500 Marines, a full Marine battalion based out of 29 Palms, California, which is just outside San Bernardino, about an hour away from Los Angeles. They have been mobilized and they are gearing up to go go and help ICE agents as well as other federal officials deal with these protests in Los Angeles. Importantly, they're going to be bolstering as well the National Guard, guardsmen and women who have been activated in Los Angeles by President Trump. But as you said, it is a significant escalation of the president's use of the military as a show of force against these protesters. It's really not clear, the last time Marines were deployed to help essentially with riot control, though it's unclear at this point just what their actual tasking will be. Typically, if they are deployed to these situations, it is expected that they will operate in much the same way that the National Guard does, doing things like perimeter security, maybe some crowd control. But the rules of engagement here, we are told, are still being finalized, and Defense Department lawyers are also looking at the kinds of rules of engagement these Marines will have as they encounter protesters possibly on the streets of Los Angeles. But again, this coming at a very, very tense moment with the governor of California suing the Trump administration over, of course, the deployment of the National Guard by President Trump against his will there in California.
I mean, hey, it is what it is. This is what Democrats asked for. This is what they signed up for. Not only should President Trump invoke the Insurrection Act, but he should also go ahead and invoke the Alien Enemies Act to fast track the deportations of any illegal that is involved in these acts of domestic terrorism, right? Go ahead and invoke it and have them sent straight to El Salvador, right? Straight to El Salvador, to the maximum security prison, to never be heard from again. Okay, point blank, period. We have to take our country back from lawless Democrats, because that's what Democrats are doing at this point. They're supporting lawlessness, okay? And they are also complicit in the insurrection, okay? Because these people really believe that they should be able to just allow illegals to come into this country freely, to live off our taxpayer dime, to take up our resources, and to just be able to do whatever they want, commit crimes, be agents of chaos, be violent, all the things that a lot of these illegals are doing. Democrats support it. And again, they are essentially calling for more protests, nationwide protests in response. And again, they keep talking about, well, we want to get out there peacefully. You know that this is not peaceful. Democrats don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore of coming out here and saying, we want peaceful protests, while at the same time, nobody criticizing them for the fact that the so-called peaceful protests are never peaceful. They're never peaceful. Essentially, Democrats coming out and calling for protests. I don't care if they say peaceful. I don't care how they try to soften it up. I don't care. When they come out here and they call for protests, they are calling for violence, because the people that they're trying to get out and protest are violent people. We've seen this time and time and time again. We've seen it with BLM. We've seen it with Antifa. We've seen it with Roe v. Wade. We've seen it with the pro-Palestinians. Now we're seeing it with the pro-illegals. How many times do we have to see it over and over and over again before people understand that the Democrats, their supporters, and this party in and of itself, they support domestic terrorism? That is the honest to God truth. That's the honest to God truth. That's what we're seeing right now. And we have to treat it like it is. It's domestic terrorism. Do people understand what Democrats would be doing if these were white Trump supporters? If these were white Trump supporters that were attacking federal law enforcement, okay? Doing what these people are doing. Tearing up cities, which would never happen because Trump supporters don't do that, right? We don't tear up our own cities, our own towns and stuff like that. No, we're not that dumb, okay? But could you imagine, again, if these were Trump supporters, do you think it would be controversial to basically invoke the Insurrection Act, right? Do you think it would be controversial to do what you got to do in order to stop it from happening, right? Do you think it would be controversial? Well, it wasn't controversial to the media when Canada was doing what they was doing to the freedom truckers, right? The freedom protests out there in Canada. It wasn't controversial. It wasn't controversial what law enforcement were doing to Trump supporters who were protesting lockdowns. It wasn't controversial then. Now all of a sudden, oh, well, this is controversial to treat the illegal immigrants badly, to rough up some illegals. It's controversial, right? So, it's funny to me how Democrats really believe that this is a winning issue, that this is an issue that they should double and triple down on. They're not going to win the optics battle. Democrats look complicit right now in chaos, right? That's what they look complicit. They look like they're fighting for everybody else except the American people. And it's not even a question of what it looks like. It's just what it is, right? That's just what they're doing at this point. They're showing you that they're a party that is acting on behalf of foreign interests, okay? They're currently fighting against America. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.